All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Close and Conquer. I'm really excited to have, I always try to think about, well, first of all, Tony Taveras, my buddy, who I've known for a short period of time. But a lot of people will be like, man, I'm drawn to people. Like, they'll be like, that's my brother from another, I have all kinds of stupid shit to say, but they say it a lot. You have a unique energy, and I feel genuinely, like a connection with what you're doing, what you're talking about. And I always try to think of when a guest comes, like, that they might be the tallest guest, they might be the shortest guest, they might be the funniest guest. You the strongest motherfucker we had on here. Like, he's the strongest motherfucker. That's stupid. I hid my Diet Mountain Dew. I had my Diet Mountain Dew. I slid that motherfucker right behind my water over here. Because we get shaped like that, those guys walk around with 2 gallons of water. They look at the Mountain Dew. They're like, what are you doing, bro? I'm like, I know. Well, hey, it's really an honor to have you here. And if you guys don't know Tony's story, I'm going to give you a little bit about what I'm so excited about. Your athletic background growing up is exciting to me because you and I want to hear about all this. Yeah. You took a path that a lot of us take. Mine was baseball, and I figured there was no chance I wasn't going to get paid to play it until. And the guy said to me today, so it was the injuries that got you. I said, no, it was a lack of major league talent. I had really good collegiate talent. Yeah. I had really good, I was there, but not lack of major league talent, bro. Yeah. I'm a straight shooter. You had a hell of a football career. You're rolling. You had some injuries, but you took that and you've turned into an amazing, just successful entrepreneurial journey. So, guys, when we hear from Tony, and that's part of our deal in Close and Conquer here, Tony, is we want people to understand that they have nobody to blame but themselves. Meaning you got the shot. I've heard your stuff, so you give out a lot of information, which I like, because I want you to be able to, here's the blueprint, follow me. Yeah. While he's building these massive businesses, and if you know anything about roofing, you know him. Yeah. It's impossible not to. Everybody talk to Tony. Yeah, I know, dude. He's coming to my house to do the podcast. You're competing. Yeah. So you've been Mr. Olympia.
Been to the Olympia.
You've been to the Olympia. Got it.
So yeah, you have
which
to qualify.
Which is a feat in and of itself. You'll talk about that.
Yep.
But there are people that are trying to get in good shape. Yeah. My man's in good shape. He's committed to that while building a business, has had an exit, and is talking about additional exits. So, Tony, there's so much I want to ask you, but I'd love for you to just kind of start and give us an overview of you. And also, the thing that makes me the most excited is everything I hear you say, you talk about how people can do it too. See, the struggle for me, when I started doing this, I had a guy that was my PR guy, which he's no longer my PR guy. And he said, you have to stop saying everybody can do it. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're wired differently. I said, yeah, but they can rewire it.
Absolutely.
I agree. I'm wired now that I'm going to be a motherfucking savage in business, period, end of story. I'm going to be. You know what I mean? If you go, whatever it happens to be, I'm going to give it everything I got. They can rewire.
Yes, they can.
So, and I love what you talk about because you're into the rewiring. You're not into the, hey, man, look at me, I got it. Screw you, kiss the ring. Yeah. You're in the rewiring. So tell everybody, if they've not heard of you, and most people probably have, give us your story, bro. Walk me through some of the things athletically, how you got into business, what that looked like, the competing, being the Olympia, all that. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So the whole story, you're talking about from the teenage years, from the jump.
Because I want them to hear it.
All right. It's important, this is great. I don't always get to tell the story from the jump.
Why would somebody not want you to tell the story? I'm going to shut up, let you get out of the way. I was funny because I was talking, we was doing a flight, and I had Shannon Sharp on there. Yeah. And he was like, I said, man, and I was trying to get some advice, like I always am. And he just looked over at me. He goes, you talk a lot. You do the podcast, you talk a lot. I don't. I ask questions to get out of the way. I was like, man, I'm in. So that's what I'm going to do, bro. It's all yours.
Love it. So I got to start back to, the best mentors in my life, which were my parents. No question about it. So, the crazy thing that drives me when you talk about my internal, and I was telling someone this the other day, something that drives me so much is to represent the name that I carry on my back, Taveras. It actually means something to me that I'm the only combination from my 2 parents in the entire world.
You're an only child.
I'm their only combo.
You're their only child.
I have a couple of brothers.
But the only one
sister, but I'm the only one those 2 created.
That's pretty badass.
That means something to me. Okay. For some others, they don't think about that. I think about that. I want to make them proud with everything that I did. So early days, they were so on top of me with discipline and books and my dad instilling certain things in me. I started playing sports early. Basketball was my first love. And my dad was actually my coach in Little League. So like he was the guy teaching me these life lessons through sports. Yeah. That's why I'm still so connected to sports, because we can take so many lessons on when you become a champion. There's certain things that you have to do that other people aren't willing to do. For instance, I remember in Little League, my dad would have me go out and shoot over 1,000 shots every day in basketball. Like I'd have to do that before I could do anything else. And so he was already instilling like another thing in football. He made it to where he didn't just give me money. I had an allowance system where for every tackle, for every sack, for every interception, that's how I made my money as a kid. Yeah. So like as a kid, I was starting to understand, like you have to work your ass off. Yeah. It's about performance. Amen. And we talk about now in this day and age, people want to give out participation awards. No, it's either you win or you don't. Correct. So he was instilling those things. So my parents, we left New York when I was about 7 years old. My mom was in corporate America in Manette. She dealt with the insurance world. Got it. And, my parents decided to leave New York and start their own business in Texas, in a small little town called Groesbeck, Texas. Small little country 3A school. And I was like, I'm leaving all my friends. We're leaving New York. We're going down to Texas with the cowboys and horses. I'm like, I ain't going to fit in, right? But we figured it out. We moved into that town. And, it's funny, that mascot of that town was a goat. Really? Everyone that sees my IG now, they're like, Tony Goat, is he arrogant or cocky? Is he in his ego saying that he's the GOAT? But no, it actually started, I was 10 years old and our mascot was a goat. Crazy. So I was a goat since 10 years old. Like this, I didn't just make this shit up. That, man. Everyone now, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, GOAT. Yeah. But I've been a goat since I was 10 years old. That's right. You were the OG GOAT. Yeah, I was the OG. So, and my dad told me, he's like, son, GOAT means greatest of all time. It's wild the things that could stick with you as a child, that could create such an impact in your brain to change the trajectory of your life. That little thing right there that my dad said to me, I was like, we're going from a bulldog mascot to a goat. And he says, son, are you crazy? This is actually cool. This means greatest of all time. Michael Jordan, like immerse yourself into that, become that. And ever since those days, I've tried to step into, what does GOAT mean? What is it? What does it embody? What do I have to do? What do I have to do to separate myself and be that much better than the competition? So, starting in my early days, a lot of sports, basketball, football, was all state, was on, varsity my sophomore year in both basketball and football. I thought, my dream at the time was to go to the NFL. That was it. That was the only thing in my mind, was being disciplined and training to go to the league. Ended up playing ball at North Texas. I was recruited by Princeton and Harvard, actually. Took visits to them. So you got real good grades. Yeah, when I tell you, my parents were on my ass with grades. I mean, it was not acceptable to come home and bring a B. My dad was the only one that they had together to be on top of. Yes. Yeah, so, I took visits to Princeton and Harvard. I was like, I didn't want to play Ivy League. I wanted to play local and play close to home. I played ball at North Texas my freshman redshirt year. Long story short, I was running down on a kickoff and I got cut illegally, got flipped over. My hip and pelvis came out of alignment and was just jacked. I couldn't even walk after the game. Here, my dream is to go to the NFL. Then all of a sudden I get cut on one play, one kickoff. I'm the projected starter the next year. My roommate ended up going on to the NFL for 8-9 years. So in an instant, everything changed. And something my dad always said, he's like, son, you're gonna have to have a brain. You're going to have something else other than your brawn. What if you get injured? What if football isn't the path? What if something happens and comes out of nowhere? You're going to have another plan. And it hit me in reality, right? So I ended up walking into the coach's room. I remember just fucking full of tears and walking away from that dream. And, so I had to find a different path. So when that happened, I then ended up kind of going through, honestly, it was probably one of the darkest times for me, because going through for 15 years, all you're doing is working towards a dream. That dream gets shattered. You kind of get lost a little bit. Got into the fraternities, got into some darkness, was running around partying, didn't have purpose, right? And I would never forget, my mom actually wrote me a letter in college, and she said, son, she wrote me a letter to my fucking dorm. And she said, I didn't raise my son to be this way. This is not how we instilled the right values for you to become this. This is not what we raised you to be. That hit me. Soon after, I ended up walking into an LA Fitness sports clubs.
Okay.
Ended up, getting a job.
And you're how old?
At this point, I'm 21 years old, 21 years old. I haven't really had much sales experience. I mean, it's crazy looking back. I couldn't even at 20 years old walk into a restaurant and get a job as a waiter.
Really?
Because I had no experience. I had all this energy and all this pizzazz, but I couldn't even get a job as a waiter. I remember at that time, it was my dad's birthday. I couldn't even afford to put gas in the tank to go see him for his birthday. I was living those moments. And then short after, I was given, the opportunity to walk into an LA Fitness, and I got hired at the very bottom of the organization. I mean, we're talking about the grunt man, pulling people off the floor, selling personal training at 21 years old. But, in high school, one of my other passions was theater. So I did a lot of one-act play, a lot of theater. So when you combine theater, performing with athletics, my love was being in the gym and lifting weights and going in with my guys and getting better. Yeah. And when I put all that together, I just fell in love with personal training and helping people achieve their goals. So the job ended up being perfect for me because I was the guy running around a sports club, a $10 million sports club with all these guests that are getting memberships. And some of them didn't know how to get to their goals and targets. They didn't know how to eat right. They didn't know how to train right. They didn't know how to be disciplined and consistent. So I actually ended up moving up very quickly in LA Fitness. Within 3 months, I ended up taking over that store, that location. It was the Denton location in Texas. $10 million club. I'm 21 years old. I built that location to where I had 18 trainers. I mean, I was 21. I was a kid. I didn't know much about sales. 18 trainers. We were billing $125,000 a month in personal training, and I turned it into the top training location for the company. Wow. And I'm a kid, so.
Now, what are you getting paid to do that at the time?
So at the time, when I first started as the director, I could make I remember my first year, I made about $97,000.
Which was a big year for you.
Which was big.
Yeah,
which was
you
big.
couldn't get a job. Washing dishes.
Yeah, couldn't get a job.
Now you're
and all
making
of a
100
sudden,
grand.
I see this sales thing. I'm like, ooh, this sales thing is nice. I'm seeing some big commissions. I'm making $10,000 on a check.
Correct.
So there was a moment where I had to trust my gut instinct. And now I really follow my gut instinct in the present. But at that time, I had this gut instinct that told me I need to actually drop out of school. And remember, my parents were on my ass. My dad wanted me to go to Princeton and Harvard. Right. So I got I can't make this up. I got a semester and a half left of college to finish my degree. Yeah. And my parents were helping me pay for college because I got out of football. Yeah. So I got a semester and a half left, and I called my dad and I said, Dad, I got this opportunity at LA Fitness to run this training facility. I think I'm going to walk away from college and go at this full time. He said, son, have you lost your fucking mind, right? They were not happy about that decision. Yeah. So I actually had to go against my parents' decision, and they were my mentors.
Which was like the first time in your life.
The first time in my life that I'm
not going to take their instructions.
I didn't take their instructions, and I just trusted my gut, and I dropped out of school to go into LA Fitness full time. Now it worked out. I became the top director in the country. There was about 600, 700 locations at the time around the U.S. And I remember, I would have closeouts where I would sell $50,000. Of personal training. And I would call out directors all around the country. I would send emails to all the directors. Like this little 22-year-old kid is sending emails to all these directors who've been in it for 10 years. And I'm like, if you beat me on closeout, I will fly to your club in New York and Seattle and LA. It doesn't fucking matter. And I'll put on a crown and I'll crown you the closeout king. Yeah. If you beat me, I'll put on a suit. I was doing all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah. But I was learning at that age to put yourself out there.
Correct.
I think too many people are afraid of putting themselves out there because they're not willing to do the work behind it. Mm-hmm. I knew that if I put myself out there and I said, I'm going to go win and I'm going to be the best, then I had to do everything that followed that. I remember driving into closeouts where, my goal was to become a vice president for LA Fitness. I was 23, 24 at the time. I was 3 years in. There was guys that have been in for 10, 20 years that were vying for these positions. And I was month in, month out, #1 in the country. And I remember driving to the club on these closeout days. We'd have a closeout mid-month, a closeout end of the month. And I would be driving to my store at 23 years old, sun coming up in the sky, and I'm just crying. I'm just looking at myself in the mirror and I'm in tears because I wanted it that bad. I wanted the next level so bad. And I think I've learned now that when you can put those emotions behind it and you really want something bad enough, the universe is going to move out of your way and it's going to give it to you. I think too many people, they fall into being victims and I was born here, or I had this set of circumstances. I can't become great. It's bullshit. If you want it bad enough, you can go get it. So I became the youngest VP at the time, 24 years old. I got the promotion, got on the acquisition team. So when LA Fitness would go buy other health club chains like Urban Active, Lifestyle, Family Fitness, I was a part of those transactions. I mean, I was 24, 25, and I was the guy walking in as we would buy these organizations, and I would be the guy to bring them into our culture, train them up, make sure they learned our processes, our procedures, and win them over. And then I also became the guy that would go to failing markets and turn them around. You know, I remember I was in Ohio, I was in Michigan, I was in Nebraska, and then all of a sudden they sent me over to Tampa, there was a Lifestyle Family Fitness acquisition. They bought Lifestyle, and all the people were leaving. No one wanted to stay because their pay for the trainers was so much greater previously. And so things were getting cut. So it was this mass exodus. And they were like last place in the country for LA Fitness at the time. So they're like, okay, let's send this young, fresh, energetic kid over here. He's a new VP. Let's see what he can do. I'll never forget that first meeting I had. I called all the GMs, all the directors in the market. It was Tampa all the way down to Naples, basically. It was like 30-something sport clubs. And this is one of my first assignments as a new VP. I remember bringing in about 50 people into the room. They don't know me from Adam. I'm coming from Texas, going over to Florida, calling everybody in, and I look everyone in this first initial meeting, and I said, guys, if you don't believe that we are going to be the #1 region for personal training in the country, I said, you can go ahead and get the fuck out right now. Just leave. Just walk out. I don't want you here because I believe that that's what we're going to do. And that was the conviction that I had when I walked into teams, and that's how I started to create this culture. Coming from a sports background, I was able to take that sports feel of football and basketball and camaraderie and going for the win with the team that would just run through doors for me. So turn that area into the top training area in the country. So it went from last to first. And now all of a sudden it's the land of milk and honey a year later.
Man,
now everyone wants to be there, right? Everyone's making money. And you know, so I ended up growing that region. I ended up becoming a regional vice president. I was 26 years old. So now I'm starting to understand the sales thing. I'm running multiple locations. I'm running regions. I'm running conference calls with 1,000 people. I'm getting this thing down. I'm finding my groove. I'm like, okay, this sales thing's pretty good.
At this point in time, how are your parents with you?
Parents were great. They were like, oh, you made the right decision, right? They happy now. They supported that.
That'll
You
happen,
need to
bro.
keep trusting that gut
That will
instinct,
happen,
right?
bro. Yeah.
So now I'm 26. I'm a regional VP. I'm running the best area in the country. Now, I'll rewind. The person that did my final interview at LA Fitness when I was 21 years old, his name was Kurt Lennington. He's actually the CEO of the platform that I work with now. I've been with him for 16 years straight.
Really?
Haven't left his side. I've been his prodigy ever since. One of the things he always instilled with me, I remember at 21, he would always say, Tony, if you can just stay the course, stay the course. And what I've realized is most people, the minute they face some adversity or things aren't going their way or they don't like something, they jump to the other thing.
100%.
And that's why they never gain enough experience. We talk about the 10,000 hour rule. You know, you can't master something if you don't put enough time in it. So I've been with the man for 16 years and we've grown this relationship and now we've grown this business. So, you know, he did my final interview, gave me my first location. I became his prodigy in LA Fitness. He was a top executive VP at LA Fitness, came over from South Africa with like $300 to his name.
Crazy.
And that's the American dream, right?
Amen.
But I saw the guy was brilliant. He was a genius at what he did. He was an awesome mentor to me. He instilled a lot of things. He almost took over when my father, you know, when I went to college, I had my father in my early days, and then I had Kurt. He became my father, my mentor. And so, you know, he's an executive at LA. I'm a regional at LA. We're doing our thing. We're growing this $1 billion enterprise at LA Fitness. All of a sudden, I come over to Texas to visit him for his birthday. And, you know, he takes me into this neighborhood randomly. You know, we're both growing LA Fitness at the time. Everything's good. I'm making over 250 grand a year,
you're
which
out of
was
your mind.
good.
Yeah,
I'm
you're fine,
single.
dude.
I'm running
That's right.
beach clubs. I'm
That's
living
right.
the life. All of a sudden, he takes me into this multi-million-dollar neighborhood, pulls out a fucking ladder, and gets me on a roof. I ain't never been on a roof. I'm in like nice dress shirts and everything in a club. I'm a VP. Gets me on a roof, and he's like, yeah, this roof right here will drive about, $20,000 profit off of this job. You'll make about $10,000. I said, what? I said, hold on. I'll make that on one job?
Correct.
And I started digging. So my parents ran one of the largest insurance licensing companies in America. Their company was called ILSA. So their clients were Chubb, AIG, some of the biggest carriers in the world.
Big ones, yeah.
that they did surplus lines tax filing, did their licensings, made sure that they were in compliance in all the states. And so I had an idea. We actually grew up in the office building growing up at one point when they sacrificed and they built the business from the ground up. So I was like, Kurt, you're dealing with insurance? You're saying the customer just pays a deductible and the insurance fits the bill? So I started putting two and two together, and immediately, within 24 hours, because I trusted Kurt, I said, you know what? I'm going to resign from my regional vice president role.
24 hours.
That I've worked 7 years to get to this position. It's all I've ever known. And I'm great at it. I'm at the top of my game of the fitness industry. And he starts this roofing company on the side, Linear Roofing. He had 3 roofers at the time. It wasn't anything. Didn't have an office, was cutting checks out of his house. But I saw the model and I said, man, so you're telling me, Kurt, if we could come into roofing and get as good as we were at teaching fitness sales, that we could become multi-millionaires and create something that would be generational. I said, oh, sign me up. Yep. I'm resigning. I'm coming out. Just crazy. So that was the second gut instinct where people were like, have you lost?
And the people at LA Fitness thought you had literally had a breakdown.
They thought I was
because you had the perfect life.
Yeah.
And they're right. I mean, this is it.
Yeah. I'm at the top of my game. I'm making great money. Can't do no better. And I'm like, you know what? I saw my parents grow a business and have the freedom and
correct.
I wanted something that.
And there was no lid.
No, that's it.
There was no lid.
Exponential.
Correct.
I didn't like the fact that I could be in something and I'm going to be capped at 250,000, even though my skills got better, even though I'm growing every year. You're telling me I'm going to stay right here.
Let me ask you a question, because this is always interesting to me. And it could be any company. I've had this happen to me 3 times in my life where I've been in a place, making better money than I ever thought I would make. And I was making the company so much money, it was obnoxious.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, when I run my own companies, I'll never make that mistake. Meaning when I find somebody who's such a fucking superstar, even if the grid says they're going to make 240 or 310 and they're supposed to be ecstatic, I'm going to make sure they become a business partner of mine. At that time, because it's hypothetical, can't go back in time. If I ran LA Fitness and you resigned, and I said, Tone, listen, dude, can't do it. I'm going to cut you in on some kind of, however, I mean, I don't know the model, right? But there's always
they had shares. There was ways.
Had I said, hey man, 258, we're going to, $1 million a year. That's what you're going to make. Easy right now. And I'm going to cut you in. Here's the equity you can get. It's worth it. If somebody had done something, would you at least have listened?
Oh yeah. At the time, I think so. No doubt about it.
That's what mind-boggling to me, right? Because all the stuff you're talking about, this is what makes great entrepreneurs. They get to a point where they're like, dude, this sucks. Like I don't hate where I'm at. I don't even know that I hate the people, but I can't go nowhere else.
No.
And actually the company gets a little freaked out too, because they know you can't go nowhere else.
Yeah.
Like we've created this model where somebody excelled so much.
Yeah.
They're like, but what blows my mind is they don't have the foresight to say, you know what, dude, we need to come up with a way when we find people that are so fucking valuable. They think the model will supersede everybody. Yeah. Now, they can make that argument or not, but it's what makes great businessmen. So you've never been in roofing. No. Had he been in roofing before?
No.
Like,
no.
How did he get the idea to get in roofing?
Yeah, good question. So one of the GMs in Texas, he ran a Keller location. So Kurt was an executive VP. He ran multiple regions. He ran Houston, Dallas, Arizona. And one of the GMs, his name was Neil Palmer. that worked as a GM at LA Fitness. He was his first partner in linear roofing.
Got it.
He had roofing experience from about 15 years.
Got it.
So he was doing roofing and GMing at the same time,
So
but
that's
he was
how
the
they
guy.
got connected.
Yeah, so
Got
they
it.
got connected and started linear. They were the partners. And basically what I said was, okay, if I come in as the third, you know, I wasn't a partner at the time.
Right.
I was known for my ability to recruit, train,
you were going to
develop,
sell, and you were going
bring
to
a
attract the
culture.
people. You were going to do your thing.
That was
You're going to bring
me.
a ton of value.
So I said, if I can do that and bring a ton of value and help grow the business, will we look at tying me in and making me a partner? And he said, absolutely. Now, what's crazy about this, you know, I tell people this now, I had nothing in writing.
I was just going to ask that.
I had not a damn thing in writing, but I trusted him. He had done it up to that point, 7 years, everything he said he was going to do. Even my parents said, Tony, are you crazy? You need to get something in writing because something could happen, right? But I said, you know what? I'm going to show him on my end, my loyalty, and I'm going to do it first.
And he's smart enough to not want to screw you up, not because he understands listen, what the companies that I worked at didn't understand, what LA Fitness didn't understand. Because had they understood it, they had made you offer that had been too difficult to walk away from.
Yeah.
But I was just going to ask that too, because people always say that. And I've done a lot of stuff in my life too on a handshake. Like, you're crazy. And it's worked out really well for me. Now, hey, by the way, if somebody wants to screw you, they're still going to screw you.
Yeah.
If it's in writing,
For sure.
they're still going to screw you.
He would find some legal loophole to fuck me over.
Or you're going to pay for it. You'll be in litigation, but they're still going to get you.
Yeah, for sure.
So you said, when did he make you? When did you get your partnership?
Yes. So I resigned from the regional role. I came in. What's crazy is my reality was I sold all my shit in Florida on a whim in 24 hours. Most people, I look back, most people would not have been willing to do that. And that's why most people don't get to that elite level. So I sold all my stuff, moved to Texas, and started knocking doors for the first time. I didn't even know what a shingle was. I didn't know what a laminate versus a 3-tab versus a tile versus metal. I didn't know nothing. And so I start knocking doors and figuring this out. And I'm getting my teeth busted in the first 3 months. I mean, I remember my first 90 days. I hadn't really made a sale yet. And Kurt's looking at me in the living room like we're cutting out some checks for some of the other guys that were there. And he turns over to Neil, the other partner. He said, Neil, I need you to make sure Tony really understands this thing and figures this shit out. Because he knew that once I did,
it was a wrap.
I would be a fucking monster.
It'd be a wrap. Yeah.
But he said, Neil, I need you to take him out to the streets. I need you to teach him what you know right now, and I need him to figure this out. He took me out there. I got one of my first clients. She led to like 5 other clients, and I just spiraled. I remember what was nice was I didn't have previous bad habits in roofing.
Yeah.
I only knew like taking people through fitness assessments, overcoming objections, figuring out X factors. Like, this is all I was wired for. So over time, I just started figuring out what objections am I getting and how do I need to design this process to be the best process for a homeowner to give them the best experience that they've ever had with a GC. And my mind just went like this, like beautiful mind. I'm just trying to figure it out. And I remember being up till 2 a.m. some nights and just writing down our sales scripts that have now evolved to what they are today. And in my opinion, the best roofing door knock sales scripts in the industry, because I can duplicate them now. We've evolved them year after year. So figured it out, started selling at a high level. I got to the point myself within 1 year where I was making $500,000 just selling roofs myself, because I had to figure it out first before I could start pulling people in and teaching them.
Which is the mistake most people make.
Yes.
They want the business without the work.
Yes.
They won't put the fucking work
They start pulling in people.
Like, listen to a story. He didn't leave there and go, businessman, now I'm retired. Businessman, now I sit on the couch. Businessman, now I bark orders. Go start knocking fucking doors.
I rolled my fucking sleeves up,
which is
and
what attracts people to you.
I grinded. And so then I started reaching out to guys that had worked for me in the past that trusted me.
Yeah, you had everybody.
Right? I had everyone. I had hundreds of people, directors, VPs, PTDs. And because they were wondering, what the hell did I go do?
Did they give you shit about that?
Oh, yeah. They were like, what did you just go do, roofing? So I start pulling in my guys.
Did the company give you shit?
What
did they go like, yo, you can't do that. Don't fuck with our reps. Even though you could, it was roofing, but did that.
It was, oh, yeah.
They were completely different industry.
They were not happy.
Correct.
I mean, LA Fitness was definitely.
But you didn't care.
No.
Why would you?
Yeah, it was a better opportunity.
But that's the thing. What people get, they're so, I love what you said when you started the podcast. It might have been the best thing I've heard in a while about your last name. You know, I told my son when he was growing up, you got kids?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
now.
how old?
5 and 1.
5 and 1.
Yeah.
So I told my son when he was growing up, play baseball, basketball, football, and now he plays baseball. And we go to these games, and I mean everything. And I cherish every one of those moments, right? I coach his baseball, basketball, and football team, which is adorable because I know baseball and football real well. I know shit ass about basketball, but I learned. And I'm barely played basketball in high school. I played 1 year and hated it and quit. But and I played baseball and football in college. I said, you can wear the jerseys of these players with their last name on it until you turn 18. You're no longer allowed to wear one again. Now, you want to become a grown man and do your own. I'm just saying, as you're younger, I'm just telling you, because your last name's important, right? Yeah. And then people get into business and they get, well, Tom's great. Well, Tom might be great, but is your opportunity the best for you? And that's to be fair. Both parties have to win. If you and I do a business deal, we both have to win. Yeah. You go, no, Tony's got to screw Sean. Sean said, no, that doesn't work that way. We both have to feel like, you know what? We got to win. And if 3 months from now you're like, yo, Sean needs to figure this shit out, you tell me, or vice versa. But we both have to win. Yeah. Because what a lot of people do is because I always love that. I always say to people, they're like, do you ever get anybody send you anything? I'm like, dude, I'm a Hall of Fame cease and desist receiver. I take them, don't fucking do nothing with them, throw them somewhere, talk to my attorney. Because people are always giving me shit. I'm not doing it, and I'm not doing it. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, as long as it's ethical and it's legal, I can do what I want. I don't work with you. I'm not in pest control. I'm not in I'm not in solar. You send these guys, don't fuck with me, bro. Like, you can't do that. But a lot of people are like, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. I'm like, dude, I'm just going to, what's for lunch? You know, my daughter answered the door one day. She says, Dad, there's somebody down here. I said, do you know him? She goes, no. I said, all right. I come down, had his hands behind his back. So he's going to serve me something, right? So he's like, you've been served. I was like, no shit, dude. That's why I came downstairs. So I dropped the table. I said, what are you on for lunch? I said, what's that, Daddy? I said, somebody's suing me for something. She goes, what do you do with it? I go, no, I'm call my attorney. She goes, do you read it? She was like 17. I go, why would I read it? I'm not the attorney. Some of it might be true. A lot of it's probably not true. What do you want for lunch? I said, baby, people sue you to mentally paralyze you. They send you stuff to mentally paralyze you. They're just trying to find a way to torment and bully you because they got big. They're fine with them being big. They just don't want you to get big. Yeah. So a lot of people in sales, I see, they're like, and I always laugh. They're like, well, I'm leaving my company. I can't call anybody. I'm like, dude, it's a completely different industry. What are you talking about? Yeah. Well, they told me I can't. I'm like, oh, they told you. Oh, shit, they don't do it. They told you you can't. I said, have you talked to anybody that actually says you can't? So you decide to start calling my guys.
Yeah, start calling the guys.
And why did they want to work with you?
Because they knew we were going to fucking win.
Why did they know?
Because
they knew you were going to win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know shit about roofing yet.
Well, they knew Kurt and I.
They knew
together.
But they knew you.
Yes.
Kurt's great, obviously. It's unbelievable. Kurt or Kirk?
Kurt.
So they knew Kurt. They knew of Kurt. They knew you.
Yeah, they knew me.
And they were like, he's a worker.
They trusted
He's a grinder.
Yep.
I trust his activity. Yep. I'm going to follow him.
Yes.
So all those years as you're building your business, and again, I did this in insurance. I didn't mean to. I worked at a company for 5 years. I didn't know I was ever going to quit. And matter of fact, had that dude got me a decent deal, like I was #1 sales, #1 agency. Like had he I would have stayed. Yeah. I'd probably still be there. Yeah. You know, I mean, honestly, I was pretty happy. I was like, I just didn't want to know. I didn't want the feeling there was a lid. There was, if you help me scale this company to X, Y, Z, I'll give you this percentage. I'd probably still be there.
But your body of work while you were there was being shown to everyone around you. Even know it. You didn't even, you were just being yourself and dominating.
Exactly right. Yeah. And a guy said to me one day, and never forget this, he said, I'm going to come with you. I want to leave and join you. I said, okay, cool. He goes, I'm going to tell you why. You worked your ass off to help me, and you weren't receiving a financial incentive. I can only imagine what you'll do when there's a win in it for both of us. Yeah. And I was like, and I just was doing what I do, right? Yeah. So you all get in a lineage. You got to hear the story about Roof Roofing. So you all start this company when?
Yes. So start this company, this was now 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I start recruiting
so it's 2014
Yeah,
ballpark.
2014, 15, right in that range.
2015, got it. It's not even 10 years
no,
yet.
Not even 10 years ago. And so, 6 months in, I start recruiting in my guys. I mean, these are my guys. I trust them. They're my dogs. They're killers. One at a time. Just pick the best. And then I start training them. And then little by little, I run the first team in Linear. And then I create the next team lead and the next team lead and the next team lead.
All over the country.
And then, well, we're just growing in Texas at the time. It was just out of DFW. And what's crazy about this, everyone was like, are y'all crazy to come into DFW and think that you're going to become one of the best roofing companies? This is the mecca for what we do.
Yeah.
It is the
Even
mecca
I know
for
that,
roofing.
and I'm not a roofer.
It's like the wild west, right? So it's like everyone's running around eating each other's lunch. I mean,
what did you know about your companies and give y'all an advantage? What was your disruption? What were you going to do different that was going to, aside from you, Kurt, who y'all are, what was your company going to offer the consumer and the salesperson that wasn't being offered?
So these other roofing companies didn't know how to build a culture, an attractive, winning culture that would just start, sending in droves of candidates to us. And so our talent pool was so much greater because we weren't getting these typical
talent
roofers.
pool, the sales guys, the roofers, everybody.
Like we were looking for professionals. We're looking for VPs in the fitness world. We're looking for GMs that ran $10 million stores. So when they come in, we just had to teach them the process. And now dealing with higher end clientele, guys that own a $5 million home, Cowboys players, like now they're dealing with a different level. We look more presentable. We look more disciplined. Many of us look like we're in shape.
Correct.
So the typical roofer's running around. Typical roofer.
No, man, they can't walk up down a ladder without getting winded.
Yeah, they're running around. They don't look right. They might smell. They got bellies. They're not representing themselves.
Correct.
And so all of a sudden we became this different standard of roofing. And what was great is we just start creating our own blueprint because we didn't want to copy any of theirs.
Love it.
So we just became our own. And then
and you knew nobody had it.
Nobody had
that team. Nobody could build a culture.
And so over time, everyone wanted to copy us. But to answer your previous question, it was 5 years in. So I went 5 years strong without anything in writing.
Nothing.
Building the business.
Did you ever bring it up, ever talk about it? No, just went to work.
Maybe one time when we were about 4 or 5 years in, I might have brought it up and just said, hey, just a reminder, I definitely, I want this. What do I have to do? And he's like, you're on the path. Confirmed it. Then then he started working with the legal counsel, and then we got it done. And so about 5 years in, once we were doing over $50 million in just residential roofing.
You went in 5 years from not roofing anybody's house.
Zero.
And in 5 years, you were doing how much?
Over $50 million in residential roofing by building a sales force. So
now in the roofing business, how big it? Like how?
It's good. Typically you could start a roofing company. You can get to the point where you're doing 5-10 million.
Correct.
There's many that can get to the point where we're doing 20-30.
How many are doing 100 million a year?
Not many. It's
so you put yourself in an exclusive category.
Very,
5 years.
very fast.
Got it.
And so 5 years in, they tied me into 20% stake of the whole business. And at the time, I'm 30, 31 years old. It's a good spot to be.
So it's three of you.
It was three of us. So it was Kurt, it was Neil, it was me. I was a 20% owner. And then, ended up getting the opportunity, got referred over to this house. And I didn't know that this lady was working on a potential show. Ended up getting referred over. She was wanting to do her roof retail. And I said, well, Jennifer, you've been hit by a couple of storms recently. Let me check. Did an inspection on her home. She had hail damage on the roof, on the gutters, on the fence. With farmers, and I got the adjuster out there, ended up painting her whole home, doing her garage doors, just giving her just red carpet treatment. And I had no idea she was working on something big. By the time I get done, her and her husband are like, this is the best anyone's ever walked us through a process. You were fucking fantastic. All of a sudden, she tells me I'm pitching a show to HGTV. I'm working with a company out of Australia called Essential Quails. It's just crazy. You don't know if that one client you're working with, you're giving it your all, turns into something that blows your whole business up. Bro. So then I end up interviewing with this company out of Australia called Essential Quail Media and beat out all the other contractors to get picked for the contractor, the right hand on the show No Demo Reno, which I helped start on HGTV. So I was the contractor on the show, filmed for over a year. Wow. And, the only thing that stopped me from continuing the show was COVID. So COVID hit, shut everything down. I was getting ready for my pro debut in bodybuilding, which we might get to a little bit. Yeah. They didn't want me to fly. They didn't want me to run linear, my business. They didn't want me to go train my people because COVID was rampant. Yeah, and so they're like, I want you to be in a box and I want you to just film. I'm like, y'all ain't paying me enough. I got kids. Y'all need to pay me some more if y'all want me on the show. But the show ended up giving me the notoriety. It was worldwide. I got people in New York that are at the doctor's office.
You see the athletes doing some shows for a little bit of money so they can stay relevant.
It was great. And so then at Linear, we're able to knock doors. You talk about a separator. I'm knocking a door and I'm like, oh, by the way, I just jumped out of your TV. Turn on Amazon Prime. I'm right there. So there's no way HGTV will let us on their network if we didn't do phenomenal work, Miss Jones. They had to do the vetting. Credit checks, background checks, financial. So you can be rest assured of HGTV.
It wasn't even a competition.
Oh, it was gold. And so we just spread like wildfire. And then a year and a half after that, we ended up going to market and we ended up transacting with O2 equity investors out of Michigan, O2 capital firm. for the largest residential roofing insurance transaction in the industry, over like 120 million. It wasn't bad. It was good.
No, that is a big.
That was our first. So that was our first transaction.
From not being able to get a job, washing dishes, playing some football, 20%. Y'all can do the math on 100 plus
it wasn't
million.
bad. It wasn't a bad hit.
Life is good.
Life is good.
So y'all did that.
Yep.
You're still involved with the company.
Yep. So we transacted. Now we have 6 roofing companies across the country. We are currently the largest residential insurance roofing platform in the U.S. 6 companies, over 35 states. We're closing on 2 more companies this year. So every year we're going to be closing on more. The great thing now about where the industry is going, when you see AI and technology, you know, the storms have been rampant this year, by the way. They're hitting everywhere. Tornadoes. I mean, this is supposed to be a bad hurricane season, but to give, you know, the viewers some context, it's like when these storms occur, you got all these roofers from everywhere running into these areas and knocking on people's doors. It does get old. Homeowners don't like it.
Correct.
First 3-4 days.
It's exhausting.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
you get 20 people knocking on your door nonstop.
Yeah.
So you got to think over time.
And most of them aren't any good at what they do.
No.
And they're fucking desperate and annoying.
Absolutely.
And it just
Doing
turns
illegal things.
It just turns you off.
Absolutely.
Like, leave me alone.
So you got to know the industry is going to be changing. So we're positioning ourselves to truly disrupt the space, because no insurance carrier really can partner with a roofing company if they can't service their full book of business.
Right.
I mean, a Chubb, you got so many clients around the country. A little mom and pop roofing company can't service that. No. So you have to become this platform that could service the book to become a partner. So now we're already working non-disclosure agreements with insurance carriers and positioning ourselves to now an insurance carrier. The problem is they're bleeding in like Florida and in these certain states because these roofing companies are sending their shit to legal and attorneys and going after them for more fees. Then the insurance carrier is paying for these adjusters to go out. Yeah. So then imagine we become this platform that could service these insurance carriers. You get hit as a homeowner and it's in your policy that, let's say, Farmers or Allstate or State Farm, they have in their policy, Stronghouse Solutions, which is our platform company. As soon as you get damage and file a claim, we already got the guys that are going to do the work. Yeah. So we would just send our people out to do the adjustment. So the adjuster's kicked out of it. And now we just do the roof for what we've agreed upon in pricing. And now shit's not getting sent to attorneys. So it makes it so much better for the homeowner and the experience.
And the insurance carrier. Everybody wins. Yeah.
That's where this thing is going.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Fucking huge.
Yeah.
So you're still, so now on top of that, because I always, do you know Flex Lewis?
Oh, yeah. Out in Vegas.
Great dude. So I just was on, was it Dragon's Lair?
Oh, yeah. The gym out there?
I was on that a little while back.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit off camera just about, I never realized, because I don't know anything about it, the discipline that it requires.
To compete at that level.
Oh, yeah. I never, and listen a little bit, but tell the folks a little bit of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
Train, nutrition, like, because I'm not intimidated by much, honestly, really not. I'm afraid of God, and I have a very healthy fear.
Yeah.
But the rest of them kind of like, what's the worst thing? It can kick my ass. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
That's a pretty high bar to live by from a discipline standpoint. And obviously, you got to be passionate about the end goal. But walk us through that. So right now, you're in like you're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it
now.
I'm in it.
Talk to us what being in it looks like for you.
Yeah. So a little bit about just my path to in the sport. I started bodybuilding about 6 years ago. It was on a girlfriend's bucket list. It was crazy. I was into LA Fitness all these years, and people were like, "Why don't you compete?" I never really wanted to. It's on a girlfriend's bucket list. I'm like, okay, let's get a trainer. My first show
was on her bucket list.
On her bucket list.
That she wanted to do.
And
so
I said,
you
know
said,
what?
shit, if you're going to do it, I'll do it.
I said, yeah, let's get a trainer.
So she wanted to be in a show and do it.
Immediately.
Yeah,
I just call a trainer, start doing my research, and then 8 weeks, I jump on in a show, all natural, right? I win the show. I win the overall. I'm 191 pounds. I'm skinny.
And you've never done it
I've never done it before. I'm conditioned. It's a local show, right?
Yeah.
But I win the overall, and then one of the commissioners comes back there, and he looks at me, and he says, man, you got an ability to go very far in this sport. I had this theater aura. I had this ability to pull the stage in, the crowd in, and that stuck with me. That win right there just sparked something in me, and it pulled back that NFL dream, that drive to be a competitor again. And I love the discipline. I love the thought of like having to work for something for an entire year, and then you're only on stage for 10 minutes. You know, so started in the sport, ended up winning the overall at Universe to turn pro. What was crazy about the overall at Universe, I had an umbilical hernia 6 weeks before the show. Hole pops open in my stomach. I can't make this up. And I'm preparing for Universe, one of the biggest national shows, to turn pro. And me and my coach decided we're just going to continue. We're going to go into it. And I ended up winning the whole damn thing.
Really?
And then, you know, got some top 3 finishes as a pro. Won my first pro show 3 years ago, the Dallas Europa. Was invited by Arnold, one of 10 athletes in the world. I went to the Arnold Sports, which was a dream to do that. Then I went to the Olympia. So this was all 3 years ago. I had a great run. I was a rookie, did the 2 best shows in the world, and won a pro show against other pros. So it was cool. Now, then we transacted with the business. You know, in my mind, I was like, I don't really need it. You know, I like it just takes so much out of you. Why keep doing it? I got kids now. I got this business growing. We're going for another transaction in another year for the $1 billion+ mark. So it's like people are like, why would you go back and compete? Because it's right in here. It's in my heart. It's a drive. It's something that I can't just be without. I love the discipline that it has instilled in me in business. And I love the fact that it shows my people I'm not getting fucking comfortable. Even though I've had some wins, I'm still pushing myself into these uncomfortable zones, and I'm trying to do things that not many men or human beings get to do when they walk this planet, to run a business, be a full-time single dad, and go compete against Olympians, which all they do full-time most of the time is train. And so that excites me. But to get to what it looks like, it is something that takes everything out of you. And I say that because like November, I decided to do this again. So to walk people through, November it sparked. I hadn't done it for 2.5 years. I'm a previous Olympian, but I know if I'm going to go back into this, I'm not going back into this to be average. I'm not going back into this just to get on stage. What we talked about at the beginning, I represent my name with everything that I touch. With everything that I touch, I have to represent being a GOAT. What does it mean? What is it going to represent? And so I got to go at it to be the best and to go win. So from November to April, I was in a surplus of calories and training my ass off to grow tissue. I had to grow about 15 pounds of muscle structure.
How many hours a day
in
are you
about
working
6
out?
months? At that point, about an hour and a half a day.
Okay.
You know, eating.
What are you taking in for calories?
At that point, 5,000 plus calories.
Dude, that's a lot.
I'm eating 8 times a day. So that's the piece that people don't know. I'm eating like at 10 o'clock at night when I'm not I'm not hungry.
But you have to eat.
I don't want to eat. And so in my mind,
You
I'm
have
like,
to do that. Why? To grow tissue?
because you're putting in a surplus amount of calories so your body can repair. So the concept is you're breaking these muscle fibers down, you're tearing them up, you're giving them these stresses, like almost like the theory of evolution. You're giving them these stresses, you're tearing them down, you're breaking them up, and you're giving your body a surplus of calories and protein and carbs so they can repair themselves and grow back just a little bit stronger and better and bigger. And then over 6 months' time, chipping away day by day, brick by brick, brick by brick.
6 months of 5,000 calories a day.
6 months of just increasing, and you're watching it. You might be increasing it here and there. You're increasing your training. You're increasing weights to add on about 15 pounds of muscle. Then it switches. Then it says, okay, I got the structure that I need. Now I have to bring all the body fat off into the
shit
show.
out of myself.
So then you start getting into a deficit.
How many calories a day are you taking in that?
So now now I'm down to about 3,000. Then it'll go to 2,500. Then it'll be as low as maybe 2,000 at the end, like almost no carbs. Damn. So the thing about bodybuilding that
and your
gets
body
difficult,
adjusts to
that's the thing. Towards the end, when you're at about 6 to 4 weeks out, people don't realize my cap is 227 pounds. I was walking around at about 270. So I go from 270 to 227. It's a big drop in a matter of a couple of months.
You can't be above
that.
that.
I can't be above that. So my division is the classic physique division. I can't be this big behemoth. It's about the aesthetics, the artistry. Like you have to bring the best physique possible at this weight.
43 pounds.
Yes. So now, when you get into that 6 to 4 week, that 2 week time frame, your body scientifically literally feels like it's killing itself. You're in such a deficit with fat, your brain can't actually function. then you do have to take certain supplements to try and hold on to it. So you're playing this game of holding on to as much muscle as possible while you're doing cardio, while you're in a deficit, and you're trying to lose fat.
Or you're trying to rip
And
it up.
so you get to the point where you don't want to drive, you don't want to walk, you don't want to talk, you get very quiet because every bit of energy
And
you're
how long
expending.
is that lasting?
A couple of weeks. So
Leading up to the show.
yeah, so from that 8 week to 2 week, it's a dark period for some people. But I look at those moments as great challenges to be able to rewire. You mentioned rewire my brain to handle anything. Because if I can handle that darkness while running $1 billion plus organization, while stepping up and still being a dad, when I'm not competing, all this shit is fucking easy.
Correct.
It's so easy. If I can handle it like that, Kobe Bryant talks about it. Like when he had injuries or he was at 50% or he was sick, he would actually look at that as that's a challenge because then when I'm at 100%, I'm gonna clean the fucking floor with people.
Correct.
So yeah, it is not easy not to compete at the highest level, and that's the beauty of it because most people can't do it. And so I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, here's the crazy thing, Tony, is this is everything that the American dream is, right? It's entrepreneurship. It's understanding how you get an exit or a financial event, transaction. It's making a decision like with your parents. Like I didn't have that with my mom and my dad, you know, so like I found a coach that was like early on, like you're Kurt. I found him the earliest. And then later in life kind of like re-engage with my father, where I've already, and we're in a different place. It's not like he's like trying to give me advice, but it's still been pretty cool. And so a lot of folks understand. I say sometimes, I think you had it harder than me. And what I mean by that with the parent deal is I was kind of like, nobody around me knows. I'm going to go figure this shit out. And then when I went and took advice from a dude, I never felt like, well, he's not my dad, but I have my dad, and my dad doesn't agree, but I love my dad. You know what I mean? You have that journey. That's a struggle, you know? And everything you're talking about, dude, I couldn't be happier for you. Dude, I could do this for 5 hours. We don't have to have you back on. Because usually I'm like, you know, you get some people, you can talk for hours. Some you're like, bro, this has been unbelievable. And we're definitely get you back on. This is how small world is. Is it Kurt who bought my boat?
Yes. So my partner.
I sell my 82-foot Pershing, right, Andrew? And I'm getting a message from this guy. It's your business partner.
It's crazy.
We had never met, but we had talked. And then somebody's like, you need to meet this guy. You'd like him. Before I knew, and I'm like, and I'm kind of like, you think I like everybody? I don't like everybody. And then he sent me his Instagram, and I'm like, that's Tony. And they're like, I know this guy, or I know of this guy. So we definitely got to connect. You guys are going to have an event in the boat. So enjoy the heck out of it. You're going to buy whatever the hell you want. You're going to provide unbelievable life for you and your kids. And I'm just happy to know you, bro. I'm pulling for you. Where's your event at?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This has really been cool. The energy, your energy is amazing. I'm an energy guy.
Yeah, I know you are.
I can read souls and energy. It's so important. But that show is August 10th weekend. It's the Texas Pro.
Well, hey, we're pulling for you. Let me know how you make out. I got no doubt you're going to crush like you do everything else in your life. This has been outstanding. Hey, and it's a rewiring. Everything we're talking about today. And also for you guys that own businesses, don't forget what the decision Kurt made too.
Yeah.
Like giving equity when it makes sense for your business is a really smart business decision.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of people get really greedy.
Yes.
And it's like, what would that company be? And again, Kurt's super smart. I'm sure their partner is, but it wouldn't be the company today had you all not had the synergy and had the partnership. And he didn't try to give them a half of 1%.
Yeah, he gave me a great amount.
Here you go, man.
It was life-changing.
More than you thought it would be as you're moving forward.
Forever
and y'all keep doing stuff together. Find good people to be in business with. So appreciate y'all. If you like this, we're going to send you a link to something else we know you'll love. Like, subscribe, share, send it to a friend. Tony Taveras, he is the man. And thanks for being on, brother. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for your time, guys. As always, we don't take it lightly. Appreciate y'all.